Ladies and gentlemen, something is breaking in New York City, and it's breaking faster than the political class ever imagined. Now, this isn't a rumor, it's not a theory, it's not a partisan talking point, it's happening in real time. Major companies are packing up, headquarters are relocating, high-paying jobs are vanishing, and the money that once propped up New York's power structure, it's flowing south fast. Wall Street districts that used to buzz around the clock, they now feel hollow. Office towers are darker, foot traffic is thinner, and behind closed doors, the panic is setting in. Because here's the part that they just can't spin. This exodus didn't slow down after the election, it accelerated. You see, Zoran Mamdani hasn't even fully taken office, and the businesses are already acting on the signals. CEOs don't wait for laws to pass, they read the writing on the wall, and then they move. Meanwhile, Florida is expecting what relocation firms are calling an unprecedented surge. Companies aren't testing the waters, they're committing. They're filing paperwork, they're moving payrolls, they're taking billions of dollars in income with them. And now the warning signs, they're not subtle anymore. In fact, billboards are going up, numbers are going public, the exits are being marked in bold letters. So tonight, folks, we're going to go ahead and break down what's really happening to New York's economy, why the corporate flight has reached a tipping point, and why this moment may already be past the point of reversal. Because this is not just about one mayor. This is about a city that's running out of time. By the way, folks, I really appreciate your support. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I would love to have you a part of our community. You guys are the best. Now, if you live in New York, or maybe if you've visited recently in New York City, you probably already know what I'm about to say. Even if no one has actually put it into words to you yet, something feels off. This is not 2020 lockdown empty, but this is different. This is quiet without explanation. Office lights that used to burn late into the night, they're dark by 7 p.m. Midweek lunch crowds are thinner. Coffee shops that relied on bankers, analysts, and consultants, they're closing early or they're closing for good. And the scary part, folks, there is no single event that you can point to. I mean, it's not a strike. It isn't a temporary slowdown. It's just absence. People didn't disappear overnight. They just stopped coming back. Hybrid work didn't empty Manhattan by itself. Corporate exits did. Payrolls moved. Teams were reassigned. Early departments quietly shifted to Texas and Florida. This is what a slow motion evacuation looks like. No sirens, no headlines big enough to match the damage, just fewer footsteps and more darkness every single week. Now, here's where the story gets mathematically brutal and politically inconvenient, while I might add. Back in 2005, New York was home to around 125 Fortune 500 headquarters. Today, roughly 50. That's not a fluctuation, that is a collapse. Now, here's the part that City Hall doesn't want to say out loud. Once a headquarters leaves, it almost never comes back. I mean, you don't reverse that decision with press releases or tax credits. You don't win them back. These are major decisions. I mean, think about the logistics of moving companies, especially headquarters. They're not going to just turn around because they're like, oh no, we'll play ball now. No, it doesn't work that way. Meanwhile, Texas now hosts more Fortune 500 companies than New York, and Florida is climbing fast. This isn't cyclical, this is structural. Headquarters drive everything: executive salaries, legal work, accounting firms, consulting contracts, real estate demand, political influence. When those leave, the ecosystem dies right along with them. And no mayor, no matter how confident or ideological, can change the math once it's in motion. And it looks like Zoran Mamdani may have already gone ahead and accelerated that for you. So there's a moment in every collapse when denial, it becomes impossible. Now for New York, that moment has a name: JP Morgan Chase. This isn't some fringe company, guys. You may have heard of JP Morgan Chase, right? I think it's like the largest bank in America, like even bigger than Bank of America. This is Wall Street itself, folks. The institution people picture when they hear the words New York finance. And now, quietly, deliberately, JP Morgan employs more people in Texas than in Manhattan. Now, let that sink in, guys. This wasn't announced with fireworks, no press conference, no apology, just a shift in headcount that tells you everything you need to know. So when the flagship stays put, others hesitate. When the flagship moves, everyone recalculates. Because JP Morgan doesn't make emotional decisions. They make spreadsheet decisions, long-term decisions, decisions based on cost, regulation, rate of return, and political risk. And so once that message landed, it didn't matter what City Hall said next. The signal was already sent. Wall Street's anchor had lifted. And this is where I want to pause for a second, because what we're watching happen to New York is a perfect example of a bigger truth. Hope is not a strategy. And deep down, most people already know that. Cities that hope businesses will stay, they don't survive. People who hope markets always cooperate, they don't either. So here's the real question you have to ask yourself honestly. Is your retirement built on strategy, or is it built on hope? Now, this is exactly why I partnered with Noble Gold Investment investments. They help people replace hope with protection by owning physical gold and silver that isn't tied to the stock market, the Federal Reserve, or political decisions made in Washington or state capitals. They don't rush you. They don't scare you. They educate first. They ask smart questions, and they let you decide. And when people finally connect the dots for themselves, they almost always say the exact same thing. Well, that just makes sense. This is why people who are serious about protecting what they've earned, they're dialing the phone number at the bottom of your screen right here, 877-646-5347, or they're visiting RonYatesGold.com to download their free wealth protection kit, because strategy gives you options and options gives you control. Now, let's talk about the moment when Wall Street itself sent the entire signal that New York could not ignore. Now, let's be precise, because accuracy matters. New York's business exodus did not start with Zoran Mamdani. It's been building for years. Taxes, regulation, cost of living, all of it. But Mamdani's election was the accelerant. I mean, because look, CEOs, they don't wait for laws to pass. They don't like sit around hoping rhetoric softens. They act on signals.
Right. Well, Tom, I sat down for more than a half an hour just now with Barry Sternlicht, who is the chairman and CEO of Starwood Capital Group. And he had a lot to say about the Mamdani effect, but his message was clear, at least for commercial real estate. Democratic socialism does not work.
So maybe he'll learn from history. Maybe the million people that voted him won't realize that socialism's never worked anywhere on the planet Earth ever. And especially what we'll watch is safety and security. That's the number one thing. If people feel like their kids aren't safe on the streets, they will pull them out of school and they will leave. And if he defunds the police or he doesn't give them the honor and prestige they deserve, I think the city's in for a really tough time. We have a big office here ourselves, and I mean, we'll see how this works, but the team in New York is for the first time saying maybe we should leave.
And I asked him if he had contributed to the Cuomo campaign. He said no. I asked if he had spoken with Mamdani before the election. He also said no, but he said he does expect to see both people and businesses leave New York City.
New York will survive. It survived de Blasio, but it's a shame it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And that's coming from a business perspective. You know, I am a greater New York area person. This is an amazing city with a great vitality and great youth and energy, but the core issues are not what he's focusing on. We need to increase housing. That's not going to happen easily, right? You need serious subsidies from the government. If they want us to work with unions, you know, the unions have to be more accommodative on their work laws and the wages and everything else. Otherwise, you can't add economically.
And he added that Starwood Capital, of course, has a presence here in New York City, and he said they were already talking about perhaps moving out.
And Mamdani, well, he sent a very loud signal, okay? Zoran Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist, openly hostile to corporations, openly framing wealth as a problem. That's not a political debate. That is a warning sign. And the response was immediate. Relocation paperwork spiked, legal consultation surged, backup plans became primary plans, not because companies hate New York. I mean, I think New York is actually a cool city overall, but because uncertainty is poison to capital. So Mamdani didn't cause the fire, but his election told businesses that it was time to evacuate. Now, here's where the story gets a little uncomfortable for New York officials, because the most honest information is not coming from politicians or press conferences. Shocker, right? As if there's like honest politicians. Maybe there's one out there. I don't know. Y'all let me know if there is at least one. And if there is one, I want to know who that guy is. Anyway, it's coming from relocation attorneys. In Florida, firms that specialize in corporate and high net worth moves, they started using a new phrase after the election, the Mamdani migration. Now, this was not being used as a slogan. It's being used as a description. Calls didn't just increase, they surged, and the tone changed. They weren't like exploratory calls like asking general questions. These were very decisive. Companies asking how fast paperwork could be filed, how soon payroll could be moved, how quickly executives could reestablish residency. Now, here's the key detail. These businesses weren't hedging. They weren't opening satellite offices just in case. They were committing, because once a company moves its headquarters, its leadership, and its tax base, the decision becomes permanent. Reversing it is almost unheard of. Now, this is what makes this different. This is not a pause, it's an exit. And at some point, emotion loses to arithmetic.
Another political shot against the camp of New York Mayor-elect Mamdani. The Anti-Defamation League claims 1 out of 5 people in Mamdani's transition campaign committee have in the past made or shared anti-Israel or anti-Jewish statements. Well, the mayor-elect apologizing during his campaign a lot of times for anything untoward. He may have said it in the past several times against Israel. But He also points out there is a difference between anti-Semitism and political criticism of Israel. Our NJ Burkett on the story tonight. He's live at City Hall for us. Newton.
And right, Bill, the mayor-elect and the world-renowned authority on bigotry apparently can't see eye to eye when it comes to anti-Semitism. Yes, as you remember last week, Mamdani took quick action over the social media post of one of his appointees. But on this, he's standing his ground. Zohran Mamdani says his Transition Advisory Committee is as diverse as the city itself, with a wide variety of opinions. But there's a limit.
There's no tolerance for anti-Semitism.
And this is where New York just keeps on losing. New York's top state income tax sits at 11%. And if you add New York City's nearly 4% surcharge, and high earners are approaching 15% before federal taxes even begin. Florida, on the other hand, 0 state income tax, 0 city income tax. That's not ideology, it's math. So a professional earning $200,000 a year keeps roughly $13,000 more per year living in Florida. Now, for businesses, the gap widens further. Lower corporate taxes, cheaper labor, lower rent, fewer regulatory landmines. Multiply that across thousands of employees, and suddenly loyalty collapses under its own weight. People don't leave New York because they hate it. They leave because, unfortunately, eventually the cost becomes indefensible. And so once that realization hits, it spreads fast. So when a company leaves New York, the damage doesn't stop at the payroll line. That's the part that City Hall never talks about. These employees, they don't just take salaries with them. They take everything with them. Lunch spots lose daily crowds, apartment buildings lose long-term tenants, retail stores lose repeat customers, subways lose riders, gyms, dry cleaners, barbershops, childcare centers, all of it starts thinning out. And so this is what economists call the multiplier effect, and it is brutal. So one high-paying job, one high-paying finance job supports multiple service jobs around it. When that one job disappears, think about it, 5 or 6 others wobble and then they fall. And so this is how corporate flight turns into citywide pain. It's not abstract anymore. It's fewer hours for workers, higher rent spread across fewer people, shrinking tax revenue stretched across growing obligations. And this is how cities hollow out, not in one collapse, but in thousands of small losses that add up to something irreversible. Now, if you want to see where this ends up, just look at the empty office towers. Manhattan's commercial vacancy rates, they have been climbing for years, and now they're accelerating. Entire floors are unused. Long-term leases quietly renegotiated or abandoned. And here's why this is dangerous. Commercial real estate isn't just buildings, it's tax revenue. And when valuations fall, property tax collections fall with them. And when that revenue disappears, the city has only 2 options: cut services or raise taxes. Guess which one New York usually chooses? Higher taxes push more people out. More exits push valuations lower, and the cycle continues to tighten. This is a doom loop. Once it starts feeding on itself, stopping it requires radical course correction. Not speeches, not incentives, not slogans. And right now, New York is heading deeper into it. So now comes the moment when decline stops being quiet and becomes public. The billboards. Simple, blunt, impossible to ignore. Messages warning New Yorkers that people, money, and opportunity are leaving, and that staying comes at a cost. These aren't just advertisements, they're psychological markers. Because once a city's future becomes something people debate out loud, the momentum shifts. Talent starts asking questions, graduates reconsider offers, families rethink long-term plans, perception locks in behavior. So if people believe that a city is rising, they endure pain to stay. But if they believe it's declining, even small inconveniences feel unbearable. This is why these billboards matter. They confirm what people already feel. They legitimize doubt. And once doubt spreads through a workforce, retention collapses. This is how cities lose talent, not in a stampede, but in a steady drip that becomes a flood. Now, this same pattern plays out in people's personal lives, not just cities. So a man recently sent in a Medicare claim, assuming that it was covered. It wasn't. His plan denied it over a technicality that he had never even heard of. That denial cost him $487. But more than that, it cost him his peace, the stress, the frustration, the feeling of being blindsided by fine print that he was never warned about. This is exactly why I partner with Chapter. Chapter reviews your Medicare coverage for hidden gaps, the gaps that you only discover after something goes wrong. They help you to understand what's actually covered, what isn't, and how to avoid those nasty surprises altogether. Now, most people don't realize these gaps exist until it's too late. That is why so many people are calling the phone number at the bottom of your screen right there, 909-563-8279, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron to get clarity before a denial ever happens. Because just like with cities, the warning signs are always there if someone helps you to see them in time. Now, let's talk about where people are going when they decide that they've had enough of New York City. And so while New York argues with itself, Florida is doing something far more dangerous. Nothing flashy at all, no begging, no desperation, no speeches blaming corporations, just consistency. Low taxes, predictable regulation, pro-growth messaging, and an open door posture toward businesses that want stability. Relocation firms aren't calling Florida surge unprecedented because of hype. They're saying it because they've never seen volume like this. Headquarter moves, executive relocations, entire departments transferred at once. Florida isn't siphoning companies one by one. It's becoming a migration lane. And once that lane is established, companies follow each other. Vendors follow clients. Talent follows opportunity. This isn't a war Florida declared. It's one New York walked out of. And Florida is quietly collecting the spoils. Now, if we zoom out, because this isn't just a New York story, it's happening inside of a very specific national moment. As of December 2025, Donald J. Trump is president, and Capitol understands exactly what that means. Federal priorities, they favor energy production, domestic investment, deregulation, and tax certainty. Markets respond to alignment, not speeches. And red states are aligned. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, the Carolinas. These states match the direction of federal policy, not fight it. Businesses don't feel like targets there. They feel welcomed. This creates gravity. Money moves where it feels protected. Money moves where it feels safe. Talent moves where opportunity compounds. Companies move where planning 5 or 10 years ahead feels possible. New York isn't being punished by Washington. It's being bypassed. And once capital reroutes itself at the national level, reversing that flow becomes exponentially harder regardless of who's in City Hall. Now, here's the real question, and this is one that no politician, even Zoran Mamdani, wants to answer honestly. This is not about whether New York will decline. It's already happening. The question is how fast, and more importantly, why the outflow becomes mathematically irreversible before leadership changes course. And once headquarters leaves, they don't come back. Once talent builds roots elsewhere, it doesn't return. Once tax bases shrink past a certain point, cities spiral. New York survived past mistakes because Wall Street carried the load, but that era is ending. And while City Hall debates ideology, businesses are voting with their feet, their payrolls, and their capital. The future of American growth is being written right now, not just in Manhattan. It's being written in Florida, in Texas, in red states that understand something New York forgot. You don't tax, threaten, and lecture the engine of your economy and expect it to stay. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.